My cue. Who's now sending me messages now?
How are we all?
Yeah, alright.
Good.
Can we just get to the game? Come on.
I don't care about these people.
Quit the niceties.
I'm fine.
Everyone's in as well. Marvellous. So yes, when last we met, we ended the session with you trudging across the field of the winery to where a single carriage pulled by two fine-looking horses, both jet black, stands at the roadside. The door is open, I'd say ajar, but someone would make a joke. So yeah, the group stand assembled. It is early evening. I'll put a timer on. It's about 7. What do we wish to do? Except turn around and go back to the winery.
You want the ajar joke, but I'm holding back.
She's a punny lady.
Stop. Just stop.
Shall we get this over with?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we, no point waiting around.
Cora nods.
And we head to the cart.
Peering inside, familiar to you, Barthandelus, is a dark, finely upholstered, sort of red velvet, sort of drapes, fine leather upholstery. It is empty, but there is space for all of you to get in.
Okay.
So no one in there?
Nobody is in there.
Oh.
I'm just going through my items that I said I had on. So I've got my components pouch, my cloak. I've still got my armor on because ain't no way I'm turning up without that. My gloves. I've got a flask of holy water. Actually, I've not even got any pockets, so I've not got a flask of holy water. So
I thought you had 2 vials of it.
I do have, but I don't have any pockets in my armor and stuff, and I'm not taking a bag with me, leaving my bag of holding. So I'm just turning up with my clothing and the rusty holy symbol to Lathander.
Okay.
In my components pouch.
Did Strahd not even send a nice bottle of wine for us to drink on the way? I'm very disappointed. Champagne de Stomp.
Wants to pre-drink this dinner party.
I think I'm going to need it.
So, as I mentioned last time, Halvor is dressed in his new custom-tailored suit. His additional items include the Cloak of Protection. He's also taking the Stone of Good Luck for good luck. And his third magical item is the Hand Axe of Warning, which is strapped underarm, like an underarm gun holster, but under his suit jacket. And he's taking the Estus flask, and that is all he's taking with him.
Okay. Good advantage for Cora is unless she leaves her hand at home, at least you know she has her weapon with her.
Indeed. Wearing her finery, may I say, which she has bought very recently and is very much appreciating right now. And to be honest, she doesn't really use any other weapons that much, so she's got a quiver of arrows and magic charges with her. I assume the magic charges aren't, like, withheld in the hand. What's happened with those? How do I carry them?
The magic they just
You
that's
the
like
bow.
Yeah, the bow just shoots magic out when you do them. Those aren't things that you carry around. That's like something you can do each day.
I was imagining it being like, Homer Simpson's isotope that he throws around in The Simpsons. I was thinking that was kind of the dealio.
Wow.
But no,
okay. No, it just No, it just has a limited amount of energy that you can pew each day with it.
Basically, you've got the bow from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
She's definitely seen that.
Yeah!
Which is ironic, because you actually look like the Dungeon Master from that, Cora.
You know I'm going to Google that now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, who's getting in first?
I step inside.
Oh, thanks for ladies first, you know?
I'm protecting you.
Smells nice.
Halvor steps inside and there's no room for anyone else. Off you go on your own.
I sit on top with the hob. I would gesture to Cora as the gentleman that I am.
Thank you. And I step inside.
I was waiting for it to be like, how patronising.
What a twat.
Smack her on the bum as she gets it.
Oh, magic
Giddy up, love.
charges are getting a little bit itchy there.
Yeah, it's alright. I've got my full artillery of all my spells anyway, so I'm good. I don't need weapons. I am the weapon.
You're not
You're
wrong.
or a weapon.
Oh.
So, are we all in?
So you've got no weapons, Halvor. You just got.
Yeah, his axe strapped inside.
You brought your-
described
you got your
it
axe.
at length.
Okay.
But hidden. Crouching Halvor, hidden axe.
Within your tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of you in?
We're in.
Yep.
The door closes gently of its own accord, and anyone who hasn't taken a seat yet kind of jolts a little slightly as it immediately pulls off, and the horses begin to trot. After several moments, you notice the weather begins to shift slightly as the snow turns into a light sleet. Is there anything that anyone wishes to do or discuss as you travel?
Did they appear to be actual horses?
They certainly appeared to be. What would you have been looking for in particular? They looked like
Well,
horses?
you know, not spectral or skeletal horses.
No,
I mean, they
no.
could still be magic, but in an overt way.
No, certainly weren't any different overtly. They just looked to be a very good breed and fine black coats, almost like destrier horses.
And trained like homing pigeons.
So it would seem.
Could be a ghostly driver on top of it.
Thestral driver.
Could be.
With that in mind, Cora tries to keep her voice low as she mentions to her surrounding passengers. So do we have some sort of plan going in here, or are we just going to see what happens?
I plan to have a lovely dinner arrangement.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what kind of plan you're hoping to try and concoct whilst we're in Strahd's carriage. This was kind of a discussion pre-getting in here.
Okay, that's great. We just won't talk about it at all then. Let's just go in.
I don't think there is a plan. I don't think there's anything we can do. We've been summoned. You can call it an invite as much as you like, but
But is there nothing that we want to get out of this meeting?
I'm just imagining you all sat at this big dinner table and just like, so what's the plan? Right in front of it.
Well, that's why I asked before we got there, but apparently that's not good enough for Bartandalis.
hey, talk about it if you want. Go for it.
I tried, you just shot me down.
Well, yeah, because it's a fucking stupid idea.
All right, then we just won't do anything.
I would love to hear it.
Well, my
You
side of the
are Strahd.
conversation went to what's the plan?
If you have a plan, Cora, and you wish to discuss it here, then by all means.
All right, Barty, do what you want.
Just right to each other.
I imagine there's little more we're trying to get from this than on you, right? And I look over at Halvo.
I mean, if that's a possibility, it's certainly something that I'm interested in, but I'm not sure whether that might even, he might not allow that to happen, but we'll see. I don't think that starting a fight on home turf is a good idea, so I think we're just going to have to play it by ear.
I nod. He's either gonna kill us or he ain't. I don't think there's anything else to it. But I'm hoping he ain't, because
He
if
wouldn't
that
need
was
to
the-
go to all that trouble if he just wanted to kill us.
Yeah.
He's got something in mind here, but we obviously can't know about what that is before we get there, but maybe we should try and get whatever information we can do. I certainly try and find out as much as I can do about the Ladies 3 and what went down there.
I certainly hope he hasn't got too much surprises in stock.
At the end of the day, I figure if he was gonna kill us, then he would have been fine with Esmeralda coming. I imagine he wants her dead more than he wants us dead, so.
Or maybe it's a divide and conquer technique.
Well, time will tell one way or the other. But as far as Strahd goes, yeah, I think there's plenty of questions. And I want to know, what does he want with us? I feel like we all got brought here by him.
To what degree that was a conscious decision isn't really clear to me yet.
Yeah. So as far as a plan, I think we're just going to try and ask as many questions as we can and see what we come away with.
Sounds fair enough.
The carriage is going at quite a decent speed. Looking outside, if any of you have been in a wagon going this fast before, it would have been a bumpy, unpleasant experience. But this is going very smoothly. You actually see that you appear to be approaching the gates of Vallaki, and you enter the town, and you can hear the occasional sort of shout or cry from people who see the carriage, but it just continues travelling west to east at speed through the town. When you see just flashes of recognisable buildings in the dark night and the rain as you go past.
Can we see people?
Yeah, you can certainly see people who are out and about and sort of stopping at the side of a road to see the carriage. Going too fast for you to identify anyone or to lean out and have a chat, but
they're acting like they can see the carriage.
Oh yes, certainly, yeah. It was all a dream. You're all sat drugged outside the winery.
How long have we been riding for?
About 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay. I am going to... or am I? I'm going to take the... No, I'm not going to bother. It's fine.
Okay. After a couple of minutes, you hear a cry from slightly above in a way that seems likely to be the Eastern Guard Tower as you pass out from Vallaki, and you're now heading across the plains back on the old Svalich Road, heading to the rocky pass that eventually leads you to the Bone Grinder. Or where was the Bone Grinder?
We really should get our own horse and cart. We're traveling at breakneck speeds. It's amazing.
Bartandless is slightly distracted, just looking outside the window at the old windmill. It feels like we've been here for so long.
How long do you think it's been? I've kind of lost track of time.
A year and a half?
I don't know. I mean, the whole thing with the windmill and Morgantha, that seems like time ago, but just a few weeks. I don't know. Everything here just feels like everything goes so slowly.
It reminds me, I feel like we should check in on Barovia and Ismark.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's hope we don't see him tonight.
Agreed.
Maybe that's what's for dinner.
It's a poor joke, but
Only partly joking.
yeah, that's the horrifying thing about it. We've had so much going on, completely slipped my mind to even try and contact Ismark. I hope he didn't do anything foolish in that time. Hope he stuck to his word about keeping an eye on Barovia.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long that's going to have kept him distracted, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither.
You reach one of what you know to be the two sets of gates to the Barovian Valley. This is art by, I don't know if I showed you this before, this is by James RPG Art. I think the scale of this is much better than the official ones that are like Dark Souls-esque mile-high walls. Yeah, the gates are a bit more open than this, and the carriage continues. You'll have seen and gone through these several times. You'll have gone through these every time you went from the village of Barovia to Vallaki.
I was going to say, I thought that we'd seen it when we were in Barovia.
Yeah. There was a set at the very start of the campaign before you got to like the fields before Death House, and there's another set between Vallaki and the village, or between Vallaki and the Serpool. But yeah, you see the gates almost seem to open a little bit wider of their own accord as the carriage approaches and passes through.
I like how we've just got our heads hanging out the window to see that happen. Like dogs' cheeks flapping in the wind. So what's your plan, Halvor, with Vanya? You gonna try and reason or bargain?
Oh, I hadn't really considered bargaining, nor did I bring anything that I imagine that Strahd might be interested in bargaining for. But
Hey,
I'm certainly... I was certainly hoping to at least give it a shot and see if he might be willing to send her back with us.
Well, he did it for Mary.
Yes, after he'd grown sick of her, and she was madly in love with him.
Yeah. Well, I imagine they all are when they get there.
I think by Mary we mean Mad Mary's daughter, yes?
Gertruda.
Gertruda.
That's the one.
Indeed.
The rain starts to pick up a little bit, and your stomach sort of has a bit of a lurch as you're quite familiar. You know, you've got that sort of innate familiarity with the roads, having traversed them a few times, and the carriage sort of banks to the left and starts an ascent that you know you haven't made before.
My heart lurches with it.
You're aware that you are now on the ascent up to Castle Ravenloft.
Wildcard, bitches! And I just jump out of the carriage. I will just fall quiet now for the rest of the journey going up there. Now my stomach is churning.
Okay. This is your last chance to do or say anything if you want privacy or planning time before you arrive.
I trust no planning time or privacy in this carriage. The fact that we had an invisible sense of following around Halvor for half a campaign before we realised it, and Halvor was walking around in Strahd's armour that did nothing for another half a campaign. I think you're full of shenanigans, and fuck that shit.
No, we will not let you in on our plans. We're gonna just fuck shit up.
Yeah,
That's
we've not
fine.
planned all week over WhatsApp to then announce
That's
it.
absolutely fine. So, for the first time close, as the path ascent starts to level out, you see Castle Ravenloft up close. A couple of tall towers, large imposing walls, and you see, despite the height of where we are, a proper sort of canyon around the roadside of the walls with a large... Ooh. Someone's raided
We
my
win,
channel.
yay!
Someone's raided my channel, and people are very kindly following. Oh, actually subscribing. Oh, good God. I need to fix those sound effects.
That was very ambient.
It was, yeah. You see a drawbridge lowered, and the carriage banks around slightly and goes over it, and you enter the grounds of Castle Ravenloft.
And we'll leave it there for this week.
No, I'm giving this one a second to load because each of the battle maps for Ravenloft is very large.
Why do we need battle maps, DM?
Battle map?
Yeah, what's this?
Well, it's not much of a battle.
Unbelievable.
Murder map. So let's see how quickly this loads. So the carriage slows in front of the castle, comes to a halt, and the door doesn't open wide, but there's just that and a slight loosening, and the door becomes slightly ajar.
I take a breath and open the door and step out. Is it absolutely pissing it down?
It is.
Like this?
It is pissing it down. The thunder and the lightning are both accurate.
I gesture to Cora to follow Bartandalus out.
Okay.
And then I pull the hood up on my cloak and step out after them.
Do I need the codex on me to summon Angelo?
Yes.
Okay. Just an afterthought curiosity. That's fine. Makes sense.
You see a large set of doors ahead of you, surrounded by torches. Bats skitter around in the air, and as you approach them, the ornate outer doors swing open slowly. Beyond them you see another set of doors, but also a familiar figure.
Cast fireball! What's his surname, DM? Because you've still not told me.
Did I not?
Nope.
It's like Madonna, he doesn't have one.
Yeah. Well, when I decide what it is, we'll say that you know it. If you need to use it, you can know it.
Okay. Shall I make it up?
God, no. Rahadin's surname for now.
Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, Rahadin Smith will be the best.
Smithovich.
No, I want to. It needs to be something like out of left field, like Rahadin Martikov.
Ooh. Yolkelson. I will look at Rahadin, and then from like the carriage to here, how much it's throwing it down, I will just take a minute and kind of like gesture my hands and cast prestidigitation, and I'm gonna dry us all off so we're not, any dampness that we've got from here to from the carriage to the door, just kind of dry us off so we're looking presentable.
Bam, anti-magic field.
Yeah. He casts counter spell and stops my. No, you will come in damp. You will be uncomfortable all night. That is the curse of Strahd.
Rahadin looks you all sort of up and down and steps back slightly into the foyer to allow you a more comfortable space in.
Okay. Just so you know, Dem, the moment I step over this threshold, the memes and jokes are gone. I'm on serious mode now.
My lord and master bid you welcome. Before we proceed any further, shall we establish a few ground rules between you and I?
I will nod. As you wish.
You are permitted to go only where the master allows. If you stray, if you sneak, your safety is not guaranteed. Is this understood?
Sounds like a fair deal to me.
That works.
Does that mean our safety is guaranteed, as promised, if we stick to the rules?
My lord is a man of his word. Yes. Unless you make first strike, he will not harm you.
Very well.
The master is engaged in other business for a short moment. I will see you through to the dining room. The first set of doors just before the next ones open.
Dark as fuck in there.
And I hold up my hand and I say, we have our own guidelines as well.
He sort of turns from the door with an eyebrow raised. Very well.
I think it's only fair that if at any time we wish to leave, we will not be stopped from doing so by words, force, or charmed ways otherwise.
Is that it?
That's it.
Very well. And he just turns and proceeds in. So cobwebs stretch out between the columns that support a vaulted ceiling of this great, dusty hall. It's full of dim, sputtering torchlight. I suppose I should also turn off the rain. There are many holes in the ceiling. There we go.
Nothing but the rain.
Yeah. The torches throw these odd shadows around, and you see most of these pillars have stone gargoyles squatting on the rim where they meet the dome of the ceiling. Frescoes sort of cover the ceiling, faded out, decayed with age. You see to the north a wide staircase climbing up into gradual dim torchlight and darkness beyond. A set of double doors stand closed to your east, and the lit hallway extends down to the south. If you will follow me, and he leans forward and opens a set of doors. So, quite a bit to describe in here. 3 enormous crystal chandeliers hang from the ceiling. So this magnificent dining chamber. Pillars of stone stand against dull white marble walls supporting the ceiling. In the centre of the room, a long, heavy, white satin cloth dining table. Empty, except for places set at the moment. At the far end, I thought this is the one crap thing about this battle map, because the organ looks like some sort of Casio you'd find, Casio 400. Mm-hmm. The organ is enormous. It's carved up the sides of it, almost reaching the ceiling, are just figures, like intertwined humanoids, sort of like in resplendent poses and leaning out and reaching to each other, almost very much like the Michelangelo finger-touching God sort of stuff. The pipes reach up to the ceiling. For something, it's the one crap thing on this map. Seats around the outside, presumably some sort of attendants. And Rahadin just sort of turns and says, "The master will be with you shortly. Be seated where you like. Do not touch the organ." And
can we see that dog that's in the corner?
you can. There is a wolf curled up on the floor.
I'd also like to ask, as we go in, I glance over my left shoulder into that nook. What is that that's in there?
Which one? There's a suit of armour stood in
Yes.
one, and to the north of that, just a corridor heads off into darkness.
So it looks just like a ornamental suit of armour as far as I know.
It does, yes.
Okay.
It is taking everything in me. Not to loll and just sit in the head of the table where Strahd goes to sit.
And I would not touch the wolf if I were you.
That's fine. I'm just going to sit on the table, apparently. I will sit here.
Are there just bats flying around?
Yes.
What, inside the castle?
Yes.
What kind of weird vampire bat castle is this?
He steps out, and the doors close.
I feel like we should ditch the. We've got outside ambience still. It feels like it'd be cozy in here.
This is muffled indoor ambience. You can hear the rain outside.
Where's Halvor sitting? On my lap.
You guys really want to sit with your back to that thing?
I'm kind of like stood at my chair and look to Halvor, look to Cora, and then I take a moment, take a breath and go, I'm going to sit at the right hand of Strahd. We're here as his guests. No point ending up at the other end of the table. We're here to talk to him. I don't have to shout it down past a bunch of other people.
So!
Pass the salt!
What's the plan?
Pass the salt.
Pass the garlic.
Is Halvor sitting playing the piano?
As you approach the organ,
Din, 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 din.
how close are you actually getting to it? Or was that all for lols?
I've forgotten what you said 30 seconds before. Were we told not to touch this?
Yes.
In that case, I don't do it.
I thought he said not to touch the wolf.
He said don't touch the wolf and don't touch the organ.
Yeah, in that case, I don't. I'd forgotten about that.
Don't eat the pate. Okay. I will pull out my chair and sit down.
So the wolf's asleep, right?
Yes.
So it's not.
It
It
lifted
doesn't
a
really
head
know
up
that
when
we're
you
there.
came in.
Okay. Does it look like it's paying us much attention? Does it look like it's listening to what we're saying and doing?
Make a perception check.
Is it a wolf?
It's stuffed. So, yeah, you are alone in here. Time passes. 5 minutes. And 10.
Who do you think he's talking to? It just seems very peculiar to have other business on the night. The same night that he's invited us.
What was it that Drahadin said he was doing? Just busy.
Don't you
like
think
you
it's
said.
maybe a tactic of his to make sure that we'll behave ourselves, do what he says?
I can't remember what I said. It felt like he was dealing with other business. To me, that sounds like somebody else. What kind of business does somebody of his age have in his position that isn't going to be dealing with somebody or something?
Either that or he's goading us into leaving the room so he gets a chance to attack us, supposedly honorably.
Nah, I don't think he is stupid enough to think that we're that stupid.
I'm already getting itchy feet.
I said we.
Me and Fido will take it. Come on.
I knew I should have bought my playing cards. I thought about it, but then I didn't.
So,
Anyone know any jokes?
and I look between this group. God, we're the most morose, somber people I've ever met.
And that's coming from Bartandalus.
Yeah. I said we.
A sudden jump. As you turn and see Strahd is sat with you at the organ, his back to you, leant forward as he is playing a song.
Did Halvar actually sit down at the organ? Did he sit on
No,
him?
he backtracked it. He backtracked it. Jesus.
And he plays I don't know, I'm sure there's a name for it. He quite often lapses into the very leant forward over it, head swaying slightly. It's very much like Davy Jones playing on his, giving it some beans in a slow, powerful, dramatic tune.
I don't know. I don't know if Strahd playing a dramatic tune ties well with giving it beans.
As good as the track is, it's 6 minutes long, so I'm not going to allow it to
Dim it
play
down.
all of it.
I mean, it depends how long he's going to play it, I suppose. Do I recognise the tune?
In or out of character?
Oh, is this a real song?
It is.
I'm willing to bet it's a video game cover that is with organ.
Tetris. Bartandalus does not recognise the song. But it continues for a number of minutes. when it ends, he kind of just sits facing forward for just a moment. He allows it to just hang for a couple of beats before he stands and turns and faces you all.
I give him a soft round of applause.
Ooh, that's creepy.
What? Him just turning into
So
a token?
good. The token, yeah, it's just suddenly appearing and turning around.
Welcome to my home.
Thank you for the invitation.
The seat is the wrong way around on this art. I would actually be down here, I suppose.
You would. I didn't want to say anything.
But we'll keep it here because it hides the art token. So if you wanted to be up here, we can say you're up here.
On his right hand.
I would.
Cannot help but notice the size of my head in comparison to the size of the bird. Is that a baby rock that we are eating tonight?
Yeah, but the table is still devoid
there.
of food.
Sure.
Also, this art has far more chairs for some reason than the battle map.
Yeah, I saw that.
It is not set for 20. Rahadin has already expressed the terms of the evening, yes.
And we ours.
Indeed. When you wish to leave, you may leave. I will not prevent it. Are you all stood or sat?
Sat. We were already sat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been there ages, Jesus.
Yeah.
Tell me, are you hungry yet? Or shall we chat for a while? Would you care for a drink?
I mean, I'm sure it'll be ready, but for whatever you might have in store. But as the host, I think your decision is what we will go with.
He clicks a finger, and the doors open again out of the room, and two large suits of armour walk in, each bearing a tray. Each tray has 3 bottles on, and they are placed in the middle of the table. You see in there, they're all bottles of Champagne du Stomp.
Are they though?
Let's hope it's not blood.
I heard that background secondhand. Are
They know.
And he gives the suits of armour a nod, and they pop the corks and begin to pour.
And as they do,
Mm-hmm.
I reach towards my holy symbol. And then I look at Strahd and say, before I came here today, at dawn, knowing that we would be coming to dine with you, I chose to prepare certain prayers and incantations. One of them, by the good grace of the Morning Lord himself, grants me the chance to purify food and drink that we might consume. I did that because you can never be too careful. But I also appreciate that I would not want to insult my host with such presumptions. If I take you at your word, everything that we eat and drink here tonight, we are safe to do so, yes?
You are. But I can also respect caution. Everything that is served tonight, I give you my word, is pure and as described. There is no trick. There is no falsehood. But I will not begrudge each and any of you from undertaking whatever investigative measures you deem necessary for your comfort.
And I hold onto my holy symbol and kind of under my breath, I say a slight prayer. Grant us strength, Morning Lord. Watch over us and guide us in this place. And I let go and say, I will take you at your word, Count. And I will not cast Purify Food and Drink.
He gives a slight incline of the head. When the drinks are poured, he stands and holds his glass to Tatiana Fedorovna.
I raise him a glass.
I will stand. I will stand and raise a glass.
Oh, Cora's torn.
She had the chance to be polite, so she's torn about it.
She will raise a glass, but remain seated.
And I will say, may her soul finally find peace.
Hear, hear.
Give me an insight check, bartender.
Make a wisdom save, bartender.
No need, he's already failed it.
Insight, yeah?
Mm-hmm. His
I'm an
his
insightful.
eyes just flicker to you for a flash of a moment as you say it, but his
Anger?
face...
Is it an angry flash?
Thoughtful, disapproving concern.
We dance the dance tonight, Strahd. We dance the dance. And because it feels like we're all kind of like frozen in pose, and I will kind of like raise my glass and gesture it and take a sip. Like that was the final toast.
And Strahd composedly retakes his seat. My chefs have gone to not insignificant labors to provide a meal I think will be most satisfactory to each of you. I will also have several other esteemed guests joining us. If you do not disapprove, I trust.
I had wondered if anyone else would be joining us.
Our approval, I imagine, would somewhat depend on who those guests are.
My brides.
I'm sure we'd be glad to have their company.
Absolutely. They're very welcome.
The doors fling open to the room, and Valenta enters at the brisk walk of someone who's trying to be composed and polite, but is quite excited about it. She briskly sort of short steps in and gives a bit of a curtsy at the end of the table. Let me just remind you of her art.
Jester.
Pardon?
She reminds me. I think when I first saw her, she reminded me of Jester.
Really? Oh,
Her
no,
demeanor-
I apologise if this opens 100 times. I've only clicked it once.
Yeah, short hair, cute, and she was very quirky and offbeat. Yeah, Jester. I'll take that. Oh, it opened once. Oh,
Nice.
unless I moved one window. So unless I tried to close it a million times, but I was able to move it.
And yeah, I do get... I mean, she's way darker and more interesting, but I do get vaguely Jester vibes from her as well.
Okay.
I mean, we've not watched as far as Andy, maybe, Harrison, so maybe Jester gets like really fucking dark later on.
So she comes and gives a bit of a head bow and a deep curtsy at the table. And it's like, My lord? And then looks to you, Halvor, and her eyes sort of light up a little bit, and she kind of near enough rushes round to come and sit next to you.
I say go for it. What?
Valenta, great to see you again.
As she sort of approaches the chair and just gives you a big grin.
Is it a fanged grin?
No.
She's not vampirish. She looks very pale and...
Yeah,
I thought we were pretty confident that she was a vampire, but maybe no fangs, you know? I suppose this isn't, we're not in Transylvania, so...
It's true.
Has Strahd ever had noticeable fang use?
Maybe she's a grower, not a shower, you know?
After sort of waiting, looking at you for a moment, Halvor.
Oh, I get up and pull the chair out because it is clearly expected.
And she very, very happily sort of lets you push the chair in behind her and just gives a big grin over the table to Cora and Bartandalis. And when do you sit back down, Halvor?
I do.
Is there a space between you and me, Cora?
Yes.
Okay.
Just one.
She gives your leg the slightest quick squeeze, Halvor, when you sit down, just above knee.
Halvor tries to remain composed. Fails.
And she sort
He's
of
doing a
looks up and
thud under the table as his cock is.
Strahd just... You have, of course, already met Valenta Popovsky.
Briefly. It was a pleasure.
Wasn't it her that came and gave us the invite?
Yeah, it was. I don't know what you did then when you moved, Halvor. And I don't know if it was like 0 something, but it looked like you had 2 pink glasses on.
They would love to have his
Put the
eyes.
charm glasses on.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. That's it. When you moved it, you just had them over both eyes and accurately. Just throws his charming glasses on. Hey, how you doing, missus?
I did consider bringing them, but then I thought, these are all high-level vampires. There's just no point. It's got like a DC of like 13 on it.
Yeah. Hey, you can still fail a DC 13. Strahd
It's
won't,
true.
but everybody else could.
I mean, it's probably immune to charm, let alone advantage on wisdom saves.
Plus, you'd probably be having to go up against Strahd's charm. Yeah, so he would be setting the DC. Yeah. Ain't gonna stop Bartandalis from trying.
Strahd continues, Indeed, Cora, it was Valenta who delivered my invitation to you. She has been quite looking forward to this. She has spoke of little else.
So is his invitation at her bequest then?
It is at mine. That should be obvious, perhaps. I wished to have a civil engagement with you before what comes after today.
I tense up slightly, even though I know it's coming. I
The music was perfectly right on that.
I've got it quite turned down. What happened?
It was the big piano dance started just as he made that threat.
The wolf growls softly from the corner for a moment.
What, are the next person coming in?
Like it's awake or like it's dreaming and growling?
Like it's awake.
Is it looking at the door as it does it?
No.
'Cause I am facing it. Oh, okay, it's just randomly doing it.
It pads around
Oh,
past the organ, round to be closer to the fire.
does it give another glance over to Valenta as it does so or anything?
It does.
Hmm. Okay.
And Strahd sort of looks over to the fire and the wolf.
I look at Strahd.
We are just waiting for you now, my dear. Whenever you are ready.
I look at the wolf.
And the wolf just sort of rises onto its hind legs, and as it does, just sort of almost like a cloak being sort of billowed, turns and unfolds into a tall, regal-looking woman. Only slightly shorter than Halvor. Not like the Huntress tall, but a tall woman. Only just shorter than Strahd, who is a respectable 6'3", I believe.
Can I ask, do you have a picture of Strahd to upload with this little gallery of people I am loading up?
Oh yeah, I just didn't because you've seen him so
Sure,
many
but
times.
it's just nice to have them all loaded.
Yeah, okay.
Especially when they're speaking.
Especially when I've got 3 monitors, I can have them all open whilst I'm playing the game.
Oh,
Okay, there was
that
a
one
million.
opened more than
Yeah,
one.
there's a ton of Strahds.
Right, so
maybe
it's if
just
I
all the
open
old
it,
ones.
No,
Oh,
if I share it from the character screen, it does it multiple times. If I just do it via the new show artwork mod, it does not do it. So
let's
that's
make
good
a note
to
of
know.
it and let people know.
Yes.
I've just been minimizing the ones that aren't in use for. So I've got a little gallery across the top of my screen, and you can
Excellent.
double click them to open them back up.
Strahd stands. He's like, permit me to introduce you, for the first time, I believe, to my beloved Anastasia Karolova.
I will stand.
And she gives a slight curtsy with a bow of the head for a moment. And she walks immediately, very gracefully, over to the empty chair between Barthandelus and Cora.
I will step to one side and pull the chair out for her, as I was already stood.
Most gracious.
And
she allows herself to be seated.
And as I tuck it in a little bit, I'm going to be clumsy and knock it a little bit, like jabber a little bit with it.
If it bothers her, she does not show it whatsoever.
I say, oh, well, my apologies. Nerves. And then I will sit down next to her. Lest we forget that Barthandelus came from a place where we hunted vampires literally all our lives. This is uncomfortable, to say the least. Did she show any fangs or anything? Anything noticeable?
She did
I
not.
don't know. Have we ever noticed? I think Halvor kind of like glanced over it. Have we ever noticed whether Strahd's had fangs, other than when he's been pissed off? Maybe.
You've only seen overt, noticeable fangs on the vampire spawn.
Okay, so by that presumption, or do I know? I mean, I don't know whether I've necessarily met that many vampires, but do I know that vampires don't necessarily show their fangs in an obvious way?
True vampires, you'd know.
Don't have to.
Yes.
Okay. Because it would be quite hard to hide.
I was about to say,
amongst
make a
society.
roll. No, you know that.
Cool. Okay. I take a seat down next to her and kind of give a nod and a look to Strahd.
There is one empty seat at the table, opposite you, Barthandelus. And Valenta and Anastasia both seem to make glances towards it, and as if reading their minds, Strahd just... Ludmilla... The was from me, not him. Ludmilla will not be joining us this evening. She is indisposed, as well you know.
I just glance at the other two.
Cora tries to mask a slight smile.
If you're trying to.
Oh, said it.
What role would make sense for that? Stealth?
Deception.
Yeah, just deception. Make me a deception check, Cora.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Good to know.
I look to Strahd and very pointedly say, what we did, I presume it was not permanent. She is undoubtedly powerful vampire as well as a mage. I do not presume that we dispatched her quite so easily.
You are a learned man, Bartandalus.
Better or worse sometimes.
Everyone make me an insight check. You all notice after Strahd's comment that Valenta and Anastasia glance at each other before both quickly averting their gaze from each other. As Strahd said that.
They looked at each other and then averted their gaze, sorry?
Yeah. Like we shared like an awkward glance for a flicker of a second.
Ooh.
Are we ready to dine?
I pick up my champagne de stomp and take a good old swig. Is it the most delicious thing I've ever tasted?
It is an exceptionally... I'm not sure how much you would have gone for this sort of drink back home, Halvor, but it is... You can tell that you're drinking quality. It is a light, effervescent taste. It is a beautiful drink.
So effervescent.
Well, considering the quality of the beverages, I can't say I'm not looking forward to dining. It seems as though champagne de stomp is not available throughout most of the land.
I watch Strahd as this is said.
You are correct, of course. Ever since the oldest of the gems was stolen from Mimotikov's winery, their ability to create that particular drink diminished to the point where in their good sense they decided to stop trying whatsoever. They made most unpalatable imitations, I found.
It being such a favourite of yours, I'm surprised you didn't help them trying to get it back.
A harsh reality of rule. If you do everything for the people, they will never be elevated. Some is necessary. If I strolled out into the fields... I have not finished speaking. If I strolled out into the fields and retrieved this missing gem, wherever it may be, What would they
Fields.
learn? Would they grow?
Seems a little like cutting off your nose to spite your face, if you ask me.
I have a not insignificant supply of Champagne du Stomp. It only improves with age.
I don't recall. How is it that they came to not have the gem? The gem has been missing for hundreds of years, no?
That is correct. None know where it currently lies.
And I look
Myself
at Strahd.
included.
Oh, okay. Do I believe him?
You tell me. Well, no. You
I
make
do.
A dice roll. You make a dice roll, and I will tell you if you believe it.
Do I believe him?
If he has a tell, he hasn't shown it. He makes eye contact, holds it, doesn't linger like he's trying to make a particular point. His tone is conversational.
So you have no problem with the Mordecai's recovering the gems if they manage to. You just don't want to intercede yourself and help the common folk with their plight.
In this regard, correct. I have taken no issue with the 2 gems you have already recovered for them.
Seems to me like they do a whole lot more than grow wine.
Whatever do you mean, Bartandalus?
Well, the druids that had the first one up at Yesterhill, they definitely weren't trying to grow wine with it.
The gems amplify life. With the right knowledge, I suppose that could be perverted, yes. Shall we eat?
Yeah.
By all means.
Have
And the doors open again. Go on, sorry, Bartandalus.
Perhaps we should have some civility before the questions begin and this whole charade becomes slightly more hostile, no doubt.
I have given you my word, Bartandalus. This evening will be a night of civility, at the end of which you will return in my carriage, if you so desire, back whence you came.
It's going to be a long night. We'll see.
The suits of armour, more of them this time, enter, each bearing a tray with, because it's a dinner party, of course,
Oh, so.
cloche, is it pronounced? Over it.
Kalosh.
Silver serving dome with handle.
A Kalashnikov.
Yeah.
So these animated armor that's serving us up, are they singing "Be my guest, be my guest" as they're dancing about the room?
They are not.
That is unfortunate, but probably accurate for Castle Ravenloft.
They walk down, stand next to each of you, and all lean forward as one and lower a dish onto the table in front of you. The first 2 are lifted up for Anastasia and Valenta. And they seem to have some sort of lamb dish on there. Strahd stands again. As I mentioned, I wanted to give each of you a meal worthy of the occasion. One that would bring each of you some small measure of perhaps comfort but if not, emotion certainly. And he nods, and Halvor, the lid is lifted off yours, and you see and smell a familiar dish of a thick, hearty, slightly darker than salmon fish, and you recognise the smell. And even as it registers, Strahd continues. Braised knucklehead trout with root vegetables. The trout was caught only yesterday from the ice floes near Grundarfjordur, where I believe you fished with your father as a boy before he vanished. I did look at Reddit this week, Halvor, yes.
Halvor's mouth just starts watering immediately and says, "My goodness, it's been so long. Not only since I've had the Bekian food, but something from back home. Now that truly is a treat."
Cora, the lid is lifted off, and as it is, you see some sort of chicken or turkey, and Strahd continues. You were not easy to consider, Cora, given you often fed on what little you could steal when Stallkeeper's eyes were turned, distracted by Harris or Boyd. I thought you would instead appreciate this. Pheasant, discreetly removed from the personal larder of the tribunus of the city itself. I imagine you spent many a cold night staring enviously up at the towers of the castle, and tonight you will eat food intended for the table of Skybird Trill's ruler.
But will it have the same sense of gratitude and purpose? I doubt it.
Are you going to tell me that Aladdin's stolen bread was the nicest food in Agrabah?
Yes.
And then Bartandalis, before the cloche has even been fully lifted from yours, you have to stifle what feels like almost a physical blow as an unmistakable smell hits you and immediately transports you back to your childhood. There's a bowl of a thick, hearty stew with several sizable chunks of pork in it. There's a familiar, faint, pleasant scent of cloves. And perhaps even more shockingly than the meal itself is the single daisy resting on the side of the bowl, stem dangling into the soup. Your younger sister, Claudia, would often put a flower she picked herself onto each family member's bowl at meal times. And Strahd just says, and for you, Bartandalis, I understand that your mother Yvette used to prepare this meal for you frequently. I hope it will bring back treasured memories.
And I look at him with the eyes of 1,000 burning morning lords that I wish I could incinerate him where he fucking stands.
And his own cloche is lifted, and it is the same lamb dish that Valenta and Popovsky have. And he takes his seat once again. Let us eat. And as he says that, Halvor, you notice that the slight clink of a Valenta who had already made a sly start at her food sort of puts her fork down and goes to pick it up again like she is with everybody else.
Halvor can't help but crack a little bit of a smile at that.
Who's eating?
Yep, I took in.
Cora's sort of mistrustfully picking at food and moving it around her plate rather than sort of tucking in. She doesn't want to give Strahd the satisfaction of seeing her enjoy what is clearly a very nice meal.
I push the bowl away from me. I appreciate what you might think perhaps as being a gesture. But you chose the wrong dish. This was created by my mother, and I will not have it served to me by a vampire.
I see.
And it is that drop of composure. As much as on the teetering edge it is, you are putting this motherfucker on the edge. The flour...
If you would prefer lamb, oh, did someone disconnect?
Hal was having some trouble trying to be heard, so I think he's disconnecting and reconnecting.
I'm back.
Yeah, I can hear you now. If you would prefer something else, you can have lamb.
I look at the lamp. Does it look cooked? It's not like blood soaked
Yeah, it
meat.
looks.
Is it?
No, it looks very nice.
Still bleating.
Lamb would be preferable. Thank you.
He pushes his
Proper, like kind of gritted teeth, kind of. Oh.
He pushes his own dish over to you. He's like, I ate earlier. And then he swaps dishes with you and sort of puts the fork back in his. So the neglected meal is now in front of him.
Okay.
And you have the lamb.
I'll kind of like idly cut at it. The small chunk and...
Smells very nice. Very nicely seasoned.
I'll cut a small piece off and kind of stiffly bow my head, and I will chew a piece of lamb.
It is clearly actually lamb.
Sure. There's no distrust here. There is just an immediate like, whatever you were trying to do went the wrong way, maybe, or not. Who knows? It's Strahd. And I'll kind of slowly pick it away, kind of like matching pace with other people eating.
What is Valenta wearing?
Valenta is wearing a somehow it's somehow almost it is clearly a long dress, a formal dress. But from almost like the epaulets on it, it's almost slightly tomboyish. Certainly not andro, but just a bit of a tomboyish vibe to it. Bit of a lacy neck, lacy cuffs. Anastasia is as pictured.
Misa!
What colour dress is she wearing?
Which one? Sorry, Valenta.
Indeed.
Plum.
Okay.
How was it? Just one for the bank later.
I'm just recalling that she asked an odd question when we first met her. She asked what my favourite colour was.
Oh yeah, what did you say it was?
I was very confused and was like, red,
She's wearing a red dress, sorry. She's wearing a red dress. That was why she asked, I just forgot. Because the speed our games go, that was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I had that impression that would be why she was asking.
Yeah, so she's wearing a red dress.
Even better.
I wonder what colour dress Lindsay's wearing tonight.
You can't tell from the couch.
Pink.
I will look at Anastasia. Let's see. I do not believe we've had the pleasure. I'm Bartandalus. And I'll kind of hold my hand out to her.
She takes it and nods with a smile. Yes, I know. I've been looking forward to speaking to you. She's very, very softly spoken.
Well, if you know so much about me, perhaps you could tell me a little something of yourself.
What is to tell? I have been here many years. I serve my lord and husband in all things. I like to have my own fun with my own business, my own affairs, which my husband is very considerate to allowing me to conduct. And I'm interested in you.
And for what reason is that?
I wish for you to tell me all about these purity bridges. You're fascinating.
I don't know if that...
Strahd has told me a little about them, but to have a descendant of the architect here, I would love to hear more.
I don't know how appropriate that is for dinner talk.
And I look over to Strahd.
He gives a... not like a permissive, but he just, he shows... It is not...
Dismissive, not bothered.
It is not off the table to discuss.
And then I look to say,
Do you want the story in my words, or fill in the blanks and any questions you might have?
In your words. In case I misunderstand anything.
Gladly. You're right that it was my father and his generation that built the purity bridges.
and I kind of like look around at the table and kind of like look over to Halvor and Valentine.
They were what you might call a well. It's a very deep hole down into the ground. Hundreds of feet deep. Took many generations to build it. They got finished in my father's generation. See, where I was from, in Strahd, we were plagued by vampire. They would feed on us and take our people or children without even thinking about it. We lived in fear for a long time of your kind. Until the bridges came. Then we stopped being afraid. Then we started capturing vampire. And we would put them in the bottom of this well. We would throw them down, and as well you know, vampire don't die easily. And they would fall down, and they would break near every bone. Now every day, the sun would rise directly above the bridges. Architectural genius, you ask me, took a long time to work out. And obviously, as you know, well, perhaps you don't know, but where we're from, the sunlight that never rises here, the good graces of Lathander, the Morning Lord himself, they would rise and they would burn vampire to dust. Every day that sun would rise. But we gave the vampire a choice. There were alcoves in the bottom of this well where they could hide. They could be scared of the sun. We would put a little bit of fear back into them as they'd put into us for generations. So they would hide every time the sun came out. The thing about the purity bridges is that whilst we had this big well, there were two bridges that went straight over the top of it. Hanging underneath each one was the biggest silver bell you ever saw. Long chains hanging down it. And the vampire, they had the option to scale the walls. Steps leading all the way up to a platform. And if they jumped true, They might just manage to reach out and grab onto the chains that connected to the bells and climb their way up. But on each chain link of those bell chains was holy symbols that would burn into the hands of vampire. And Baltandlis is kind of like, he's got a smile on his face now. That was a hard climb for vampire. And with each climb up, each hand, each reach, it would ring that bell, and men and women and children would flock to the purity bridges. And we would see the vampire, pitiful, trying to make their way up, trying to find their freedom. And we looked at them crawling, and we weren't scared no more. We laughed. We took back our power, and we would throw stones, try to knock them from their chains and send them back down to the bottom of the well, until they decided to give up and just step out into the sun and turn to dust. Kind of sits back in his chair, slowly cuts off a piece of lamb before he kind of like puts it in his mouth and say, "That's my story. That's my story of vampire." Starts chewing on his lamb.
She looks a bit confused. So, why didn't they just fly out?
Never had any kind like that. Obviously, it's a certain type of vampire. It always used to
A
be,
weak type.
yeah. It was, the ones that had been made got left behind. There used to be something of a migration where, I guess, the elder vampire, whatever you call them in your circles, they
My
would come
husband.
through. And I look at Strahd.
Many say that he is the first vampire.
First vampire. Perhaps. Some believe that you kill the vampire that created the spawn, and you kill the spawn. And I've kind of like got my fork and my knife in my hand. I just kind of like, just stick the knife into the steak, and I look at Strahd and go, "So maybe all I need to do is kill you, and I will erase vampire from the entire world." And then I cut off another piece of lamb. Start eating it.
A grandiose idea. I imagine you're almost dizzy even contemplating it. Although I hate to disappoint you, I have been killed before. And my brides remain, much to my relief.
Not a surprise. I've already been made well aware that you've been killed before. Maybe people just aren't killing you in the right way.
If I might ask, and it be not too personal, if you were said to be the first vampire, does that mean you are not created by a vampire yourself? If that's the case, how did you come to be as you are?
He dabs of a cloth at the corner of his mouth and looks thoughtful. It is an old, long, complex tale. One that I fear you already know.
I have some information, but I find it's always best to get it straight from the horse's mouth, lest there be misinformation or confusion.
I am the lord of this land. I am bonded with it in a pact of blood. I cannot be killed. And that manifests itself in a way that you and the world has come to regard as vampirism, they call it. And he takes another spoonful of the stew. Sort of turns to Barthandler as a side note, almost as if complimenting you, Barthandler. It's an excellent recipe.
And yet it seems that other vampires do not benefit from your immortality.
How do you mean?
Perhaps you cannot be killed, but there are stories of other vampires being killed that are not.
Certainly. They are not Voland as I am.
Perhaps that is your curse.
We're all waiting for it to land. I look at Strahd as he's eating the stew.
I wonder why you didn't say anything at the time. It's because you were on the toilet.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, but I was still... No, well, Halvor was kind of speaking as well, so I didn't want to jump in. I'm gonna say, and I don't know whether it is. I don't think it is, but I don't know whether it is or it isn't. But I'm gonna go with it as perhaps been an old wives' tale. And I look at Strahd and say, one of the things with people from Drast, anytime they would make a stew or any food, they would heavily season it with garlic. And I look at the bowl.
You can smell the garlic on it.
I was curious as to whether it was an old wives' tale.
That is one that I have heard several times over the centuries. I understand little of the basis for it. But you saying that does remind me of something else. I understand that you may have brought holy water into my home.
Nope.
Would you do me the honor of allowing me to sample it? It's a rare delicacy in these parts, and I find it to be a most pleasing accompaniment.
Do you wish to retcon that I brought it?
I mean, you can have, if you want, you can say, no, you didn't bring it with you. That's fine.
I didn't bring it with me.
But you can say that.
Because I said at the beginning... that
Yeah, I know what you said, but he thinks that you have.
I do not have any on me, I'm afraid. However, if you have any silver, I would happily make you some.
Indeed. Does the process take long?
Takes round about 5 minutes.
How long?
I mean, to be
Okay.
fair, I don't actually think I can do it because I don't have it prepared. If you want me to, out of character...
He reaches down and half removes a single ring for a moment before seeming to reconsider, pushing it back on, and he hands you a spoon instead.
Very well. This will take some time, but...
And I will kind of stand up and push my chair back and say, and I kind of like lean forward a little bit towards Strahd, kind of like a little bit too personal, kind of like,
I'm as interested as you are to see what happens here. And so, I don't want to ruin whatever this is. I'll head over there and do it at the other end of the table. And once I'm done, come back.
Very well.
And
As
I
you
will...
get to the end of the table, stepping out somehow unseen up to this point from one of the pillars near the door steps Rahadin, who just stands about a few paces away from the table, but just overtly and directly watching you. Hands sort of behind his back, making no secret of the fact that he's just overseeing and observing whatever it is you're currently up to.
Okay. Then I will take out my symbol of Lathander, kind of like expose it from the necklace onto the front of my armor, and every so often I'm gonna just start saying some prayers and do my thing for a little while whilst everybody else carries on doing what they're doing. It's gonna take a little while at least for me to create some holy water.
So Valenta turns to Halvor. So my husband tells me that you have already been married. Tell me about Eva.
Well, can't say I was expecting that to come up. Your husband knows a great deal.
And she just smiles and looks at you expectantly.
We she grew up in a neighboring village. We were good friends from a young age, and we were only young when we became married, 18, 19, something like that.
Strahd just side comments in 19.
Yes, 19. But as I suppose you already know, it didn't last.
Did you kill him?
You'll have to remind me if I killed him, dear.
You
I
did
think
not.
I
You
didn't
did not.
quite.
But you can say what you want.
I didn't. It was fits of rage, but nothing quite that dramatic. Either way, it was the primary cause for me leaving home and setting out on my own.
I would have killed him. And her, perhaps, as well, for betraying you so.
An interesting viewpoint. I generally hold the belief that life has value and that it shouldn't be wasted freely.
Especially interesting as somebody who shares their husband so freely, it would seem.
Before that comment, Cora, at your comment about life having value, she just gives not a nasty, but she laughs at you. Just made a absolute belter of a joke. And I say, what did you say, Cora? Oh yeah, about the attitude to to marriage.
Yeah, if she's saying that she would kill her partner and her partner's lover for such a thing, that she's willing to share her husband.
Yeah, this is Ravenloft. He's basically Burgomaster Polyanovich.
Just trying to point out the irony.
Yeah, she sort of smiles. Like, I wouldn't expect you to understand.
Indeed, I don't.
I'm interested to learn more about your past, Valenta. I know so little of you. It's only recently that we even learned of your existence and your name.
I tend to get into trouble, so I don't get to go out as much as I would like. Trouble always seems to find me. I suppose. So a little bit about me. I was a prostitute in Valaki
A Welsh one?
long time ago. But I got very sick. And my father brought me to the castle hoping for healing. And instead of just making me better, I got eternal life.
Not a bad deal, I guess.
Yes, my father didn't like it, but he was my first meal, so... Oh well.
How old were you when you became immortal?
Just to stop things going too creepy, we'll say 18. 18! It was my 18th birthday!
I mean, it can be 16. We're all from the UK. We can play by different rules in this stream.
I think we can... Strahd can be evil and dark enough without outright being a pedo, so we'll say 18.
And
I was more bothered about Halvor cracking on all night. I mean, you look at her, she does look like she's 12 next to him on the tokens.
And again, I don't mean to pry, but how long have you been with the Count?
Ooh. I think it is only about 100 years, I think. I'm still the new girl.
I can't imagine what it's like to even exist for such a long time. I fear it would drive many mortal men mad.
You think that is a long time? You want to speak to Ludmilla? And she just pokes her fork at her food and eats and glances at Anastasia again for a second.
Yes, I'm not quite sure I'd ever told the full story of my marriage to Eva, to my companions, but I guess now they have the whole story, more or less.
How is your food, Cora? You don't seem to have eaten much.
As I suspected, food hard won tastes better than that presented to you so easily.
You've always been a fighter, have you not?
That's why I'm still here.
Indeed. Lessons, I understand, that were hard learned from seeing your mother's demise.
Perhaps so.
She was cruelly treated by your father. To have had you both left defenseless. And although the circumstances of her death are tragic, I see that the fire she died defending has truly been passed to you. And for that, I toast you. And he doesn't stand up, he lifts his glass in your direction and gives an incline of the head.
I make sure to lift a glass at that as well, and I hold it towards Valenta to see if she'll give me a little clink.
She gives you an exuberant clink that slightly overspills her glass.
Perfect.
I don't raise my glass, but I keep eye contact with Strahd and give him a brief incline of the head.
Over the duration of these conversations and slight lulls, as people eat. Bartendless, your ritual comes to an end.
And it completes. It completes in one of the laid out goblets at the end, and kind of walk over, trying to hide the slight smile on my face. And I kind of walk past Anastasia with it, kind of like hold it close to her as I'm walking with it, the holy water. How does she react?
She's in conversation with... Well, no, I suppose. Yeah, she just watches, keeps her polite smile on her face.
And then I
Deja
will...
vu.
Yeah,
And
this is
as
fucking
you,
weird.
I think you're about to do something, so I'm going to say something in preparation. If I'm wrong, then oh well. If the thought enters your mind to pretend, to put on that you're going to stumble...
No,
over
no,
to
I'm
the
not.
next
I'm
to
not.
her,
I'm
she
not.
would-
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I
Okay.
wasn't. I wanted to hold it close because obviously I've done the chair thing. I wanted to hold it close enough to make her think that I might do it, but I wasn't gonna do it. So I
Yeah.
wanted to see if there was any apprehension about holy water being spilled on her.
None.
Okay. Then I will place it down in front of Count Strahd von Zarevich, and I will take my seat. Is Rahadin just still stood to the pillar at the side?
He's stepped back, and you really have to, even though the room is hardly cloaked in shadows next to the wall, you really have to, you glance between 2 or 3 pillars thinking, has he left? Has he gone?
Is it like nobody else has noticed him? Have I noticed him, but nobody else knows he's there?
No, I would say that Cora would have been able to see him as well.
Okay.
But Cora, even with your keen eyes as well, he lends himself to shadow very easily. That's not a pigment comment. When he's up against the wall in those shadows, he is hard to keep a fixed eye on. But yeah, he just steps back away from the table. Strahd dips a spoon into the holy water and almost toasts with the spoon in your direction, Bartendless, before stirring it into the stew. And then he takes the spoon again and sniffs and takes a mouthful. Halvor, you notice Valenta hasn't grabbed onto your leg, but she sort of grabbed almost like a bunched sort of fistful of the side of your tunic as she's sort of looking down the table, and she's a bit sort of frozen for a moment. And Strahd chews and I had forgotten. It is powerful, isn't it? But there is a certain satisfaction, a certain bite to it. I thank you, Bartendless. And then he takes the goblet and, whilst keeping composure, it's hardly a rush thing, he steadily drinks the entire thing.
With Valenta kind of grabbing onto me, I just put one hand on her knee in a kind of reassuring, don't worry, it's fine kind of motion.
Not sure you should be touching her knee.
Well, I mean, she's hanging off my arm, so
Yeah, but she can do that towards you. You doing it back is just asking for trouble.
Yeah, is it noticeable that Halvor is being a bit fawny over her?
Inappropriate, some would say.
Perception checks, the two of you.
I don't want to react on it otherwise. I'm watching. I'm fully engaged in Strahd,
So
I believe.
Strahd drinks the entirety of this goblet, puts it down on the table, and after a moment or two, he maintains his composure. After a moment or two, slight wisps of white smoke emanate from the nostrils and the mouth and the ears, and there's almost a moment of looking discomforted. Bartandos being sat next to him, you see just at the top of his shirt line or his collar, the most slight bit of burn on the throat sort of creeps up for a moment, and after 2 or 3 seconds, just disappears and turns back into regular, albeit pale, flesh. And he... I trust you will allow me... Oh no, it wasn't your holy water, he made it I trust that you will allow me to reimburse you for any other ingredients or reagents that may have cost you. I did not see at the end of the table what you were doing.
Just cost a spoon. It's fine.
That was delightful. My thanks.
Good to know. Do you want me to make up another batch for your wives?
I fear they might not appreciate it as much as I do.
Good to know.
And he smiles to use a common phrase, he smiles a smile that does not reach his eyes.
I thought you had more wives. I don't know why. Ludmilla discounting, obviously. This is it? 3?
There is another, but she is currently indisposed. Helga.
Helga. Interesting to meet her. Not as interesting to meet Escher.
Ah. What know you of Escher?
Very little. Well, curiosity definitely has me piqued. Seems important to you, though. Always seems to be Ludmilla, Rahadin, and I look over to the column at the shadows, and Escher. Those seem to be the 3 names that follow you around the most. Very few people seem to know much about Escher.
That's from
Are they-
Valenta.
I gotta look over at Valenta. Or do I have it wrong?
She reconsiders whatever she was going to say, but she looks down at her plate with trying to suppress a bit of a grin.
Of course, you are but a wife. At least you know your place, and I just look back at Strahd.
Anastasia smiles,
Can't say it. It's Strahd.
and as she sort of turns to Strahd and says, "He lasted longer than you said he would."
And I now look over my shoulder at Anastasia. A wager I have not been privy to, I presume.
You have a reputation of trying to divide and sow mistrust amongst people, and although I'm sure it's very, very useful sometimes, we've been watching you do it ever since you arrived.
Literally hasn't worked once since I got here. Yeah, well, I suppose that the House of Strahd is a little bit more tighter knit than most other places. I commend you for that, Count.
So Strahd looks at you, and you look at Strahd, and Anastasia is like, shall we perhaps have some music to...
I'm very good on the organ if you wish. As well as proven,
Valenta giggles.
as well as proven by my performance at Death House when I nailed the thing in Lancelot's room. I nailed reading the music, so I clearly know how to play.
You did. Strahd just nods, and again, the doors to the room open, and when I say cloaked figure, it isn't like Scottish widow, but someone in formal sort of tunic and shawl that leads up to a hood comes in, carrying a violin, and goes over to the fire. Somewhat gaunt and pale, long, fair hair. They take out even from the distance you were at the table, clearly a beautifully carved violin of a dark red wood. Perhaps
Very androgynous.
that you haven't seen in Barovia. And plays. Cora, what are you doing
Hello.
while this is happening?
I mean, I can't see how I wouldn't be watching the person that's walked into the room in such a cloaked and mysterious way. So I've probably got my eyes fixed on them.
Okay. What about the others? Bartandalis, Halvor.
As he was behind me, I'm gonna push my chair back and step out of my chair. So I'm kind of like I'm stood by my chair with like these high backs and like hand on it, and I am enraptured.
It's an innately sad, very, very almost mournful song, but it manages to keep pace enough that it doesn't feel like a funeral dirge or anything like that.
I look around to see if there's any crossbowmen high above us, and I see if anybody's wearing armor.
Strahd suddenly in full plate.
You're wearing armor, bartenders.
Tell them Martikos the Zarovic's stale. What are you telling me?
You didn't introduce this musician, right? They just kind of brought them in.
Oh yeah, it's just
we were talking about Escher. I am under presumptions, but
as you're watching, it's almost imperceptible to you, Cora, and it could certainly be accidental. But as Anastasia turns to watch the musician, a single fingertip just sort of goes on the outside of your leg, just sort of traces from knee to hip almost as she turns in a chair. She doesn't look away from the musician. She just happens to do that as she turns.
Oh, very interesting. Suddenly get the feel that me and Halvor are trying to be distracted.
I mean, I've got the full picture of her open. I would
happily be distracted. Distract away, DM.
And then you die.
Well, you know, but what a way to go. What a way to go.
Halvor kind of murmurs to Valenta so as not to kind of detract from the performance. The musician, who is this? They were not introduced.
As before she answers, the song sort of comes to an end, and the musician finishes and lowers the violin. They go to step toward. They step over to the table and begin to pull a chair out, and Strahd goes, "Not tonight, Escher. That will be all. You may leave." And looks crestfallen for a moment, this figure. Makes eye contact with you for a moment, Bartandalus, and then just gives a stiff little bow to everyone, hesitates for a moment, and then briskly strides from the room with head down.
Did Escher hope that he was going to be Barty's at Lie Candy?
Let's hit that. What? Oh, holy shit balls.
What?
The
A talented musician, but not much of a conversationalist.
Didn't get the chance.
But it's probably for the best.
Because... Not that I have a problem with the company that you have provided tonight.
He is often melancholy, and tonight is not a night I wish to indulge in melancholy. Tonight is a night for good company and good cheer.
He says in that tone.
He looks to Halvor. I must confess, you seem more than you were when I last met you.
That may be true.
You have certainly grown in stature.
I can only confess to serving the gods to my best and being rewarded for my service.
Serving which gods?
Halvor hesitates, but says, Helm, the Protector.
I am familiar with him, though he does not hold much sway in these lands.
Yes, it's not often we hear of anyone other than the Lord of Light in this land. And of course, yourself, I suppose.
Delicately put. In my homeland, my original homeland, Helm was a lesser name. He was known as the Vigilant instead.
And who were the Almighty of the Pantheon?
Too many to name. Eo, the Overseer, Torm. There were many. A countless pantheon, a land of many gods.
Is that the land that you viewed from upon Yesterhill?
It is.
Does he look unimpressed?
He does.
Oh dear.
But he quickly regains conversational composure.
Where does your homeland reside. It's not somewhere we've ever heard of from our continent.
Faerun? And I look at Strahd.
He nods to Bartandalis.
Actually, oh, sorry. Would I even know that in character? I know that it got revealed in game. Would I know that?
Yes, because of... I've not got the exact name of it now. World Anvil is gone, but there was a book...
It
the
was
book
mentioned.
the
The
book
thing you have
detailing
Vaporin's-
the origin
Yeah.
of the Order.
Okay. I know it was from, like, Cormier, I think it was around that area, and I
Yeah.
remember that out of character, but I'm not sure. So, okay, so that's in character stuff, but that's as much as I
You
know.
you know the name of it. You wouldn't know anything
Sure.
about it other than there's presumably a country called
Flagstaff?
Storming.
What? Sure. What do you think of the new Baldur's Gate 3 game, Strahd? Okay, sure. I say Faerun, and I look at Strahd.
Yes, he nods. You are well educated. How do you know of Faerun? Or rather, what do you know of Faerun, he would say.
Very little. Things that I've managed to piece together in my time in Barovia. That you're not from here, we're not from here. Wherever here is. I think you seem to come here, and wherever this place was, you've trapped people here indefinitely. Argynvost, people of Barovia, yourself. All this because of Sergei. So it would seem.
I try and gauge Valenta's reaction when he says it's Strahd.
Make me an insight check, Halvor. Strahd thinks for a moment. Valenta's reaction can't gauge. She's just watching the exchange of sort of tennis eyes between the two. It is a complicated tale. Many factors. Many moving pieces, but I imagine maybe difficult for even a learned man to comprehend, for the story spans so many centuries. But I understand you perhaps are piecing it together for yourself as time goes on.
Slowly but surely it would seem. Yeah. And as you know, we have met the abbot. I have found out information about him. His reason for being here and his fall and his end brought by us, as well you know.
Perhaps not an end.
Perhaps. As is the way of Barovia. Whether the abbot Bartandalis, whether our companion tiefling, whose name I suddenly forgot, Jay. I can't remember his fucking name. Can't remember his name.
Dolus.
Dogtanian.
Dolus. No, Dontalian's our fucking other friend.
Oh yeah.
Dolus. Shit, man. You made a big impression, Dolus. Dolus.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Seems like yesterday. But, it seems like there are many people that have been lost. Irina. But you are endless, you are eternal, you are the land. And still, I find it curious, you came alongside us for so long as Vasily. But you took the face of your brother, which I find odd. Did you... you tried to woo Irina as Vasily, and I dare say that you were getting close, it worked. Is that because it took Sergei's face to woo her the first time? Yours wouldn't work?
It was a new approach.
How did that
One
turn
that,
out?
until your involvement, to perfection, clearly she was drawn to the visage. Once you have all passed from this world, and Tatiana is reborn, I will simply do it again, and without your interference, I dare say it will be successful this time. At last. At long last.
That she'll fall in love with your brother?
With me.
That
An
looks like...
appearance is fleeting.
Yet
As
it's
well.
an appearance that you must don to try and get her.
Are you not all guilty of this? Of changing your appearance? Of you, Bartandolus, who has undergone such a drastic transformation from poor, dark, confused Eckhart Poe to you, Halvor, who even now conceal your true self from perhaps even your own eyes, but certainly those of your companions.
I'd like to think I'd make my transition once. I was already lost. I just returned to the person that I was. Eckhart Poe wasn't me. Who I am now. That's who I was always meant to be. I just found my way back. But you... Seems like you need to be someone else. It seems like you can't get what you want, and I look around at
Before
the
you say any
kids.
more, when you say about, now who I'm just went back to who I always was, you just hear her. Well, that's somewhat disappointing to hear. I have such high hopes for us. No one around you, Strahd included, seems to react.
Is this normally an echoey tenebrous voice?
Did it not come through as echoey tenebrous voice?
It did not come through as echoey. It came
That's
through as
weird.
Andrew Harrison speaking lustfully in my ear.
Why?
I've got tingles.
Oh, that's why.
I'm still done. I'm spent. I'll do whatever you say.
Is
Jesus
that
Christ.
better?
That's better.
Then it said it in that voice.
Say it again.
Don't you giving him tingles?
I have such high hopes for us.
I've got high hopes.
Yeah, nobody reacts.
In my head, I will say, I feel like mine and your time will be coming very soon. And then I will kind of close off to it a little bit.
Speaking of us dying here, I believe that you're, I can't remember if you said it or implied it at the time, but that our being here was your will. Is that so?
It is.
And to what end?
I can't say high hopes now. I had
High hopes?
suspicions. I have observed you for much of your lives, as I have with many others. Each of you is, and forgive me, I do not mean this as an insult, and you may argue otherwise with me, but in my experienced opinion, each of you is broken, lacking in some way, in a way that you feel a drive. And it is that drive, that hole in you, that wound to your soul, that made me think you had a place here. And so I brought you here, even though you thought you brought yourself. He looks at Barthandelus as he says that. There is no ritual to enter my land without my express will and consent. To you, Halvor, the wolf you thought you saw and followed was not that of your stout former companion. It was one of my agents. To you, Barthandelus, the boy Baron you pursue, I had him brought here. I have watched since you were in Strahd, since you wandered the streets of Skybird Trail, since you strode across the ice floes with Jökull, learning to hunt. All of your lives I have watched, I have seen. I know where your father is. I know where your friends are. Everything I observe. And yet, since you arrived, one of you has disappointed me. One of you shows great promise, and another I am still undecided on.
Halvor's looking around like, who?
Cora's looking very nonplussed by the whole announcement.
It's like the Spider-Man meeting Spider-Man meme.
Strahd takes a cloth and dabs at the edge of his mouth again, and you will forgive me if we do not serve dessert. I'm afraid I overindulged and ate before our meal and simply cannot face another bite.
You said when we came here that we would speak before everything that was going to happen was going to happen. What happens next? What happens from tomorrow with us and you?
What I said to you in the church stands true. I will not cut you down. I will cause each of you to suffer. It will be prolonged. It will be anguishing. It will make you regret standing in my way in the manner that you have. It will be divisive. It will not be tonight. At least not for you. I started with Esmeralda before you arrived.
My jaw clenches.
Yeah, me and Halvor just literally looked at each other like,
She's here.
No.
Then what?
Will you be returning to the winery after here? And he just seems to, almost absent-mindedly, but with quite a bit of deliberation to it, with a single finger. His fingers have quite long nails, by the way, just picks at a tooth.
So divide and conquer was your plan after all.
What happens if we don't?
As I gave you my oath, tonight, in these castle walls, between yourselves and I, and mine, is civil. My carriage will transport you to Valaki, the village, the winery, Kresk, wherever you like. Then, when the day begins tomorrow, we are enemies in earnest.
What have you done to Esmeralda?
Was that the business you were attending to when we arrived?
He doesn't say anything, but gives a look of, you're not wrong, to Cora.
What of the boy? Was he just a pawn? You have no interest in him?
I have no interest in him. His use was served when he drove you to travel in this direction, seeking out Barovia.
And I kind of like laugh slightly. I have no problem being here. What, you think me being here is a problem? My whole life is about killing vampires. You just brought me to your doorstep. If you're an enemy of mine, and you've only just realized it, you were an enemy of mine before I even came here.
See how he blusters Anastasia. It's mostly to reassure himself. She just smiles. Not in a goading way, just her smile's almost sympathetic.
I look on my shoulder and look at her smiling, and I say to her, I haven't seen you out there. Why don't you come try it like Ludmilla did? And I look back at
She
Strahd.
just smiles, and even as you turned away, because if you turn back to Strahd, she leans forward slightly and just even softer than usual. You'd never see me coming.
Try me.
Perhaps I will.
And my
Valenta.
hand goes to a knife, and I kind of like just grip it in my hand.
Valenta leans to you, Halvor. And it's like, maybe you should try and stop this. I don't want you to get... Can you control him?
I do so, but by engaging Strahd in other conversation. Speaking of your pawns, Valenta mentioned how you still have the girl Vonya, and that how she has been moping around all the time and crying a lot. Is she still here?
She is. But her spirits are high. I believe Valenta took it upon herself to say that, thinking it would encourage you to accept my invitation. And although I scolded her for it, it seems it was true. Vonya will not be joining us this evening, but I give you my word, Halvor, that she is well tended to and happy.
I scoff. Scoff, I say, scoff.
Right, Fred Elliott.
Happy.
Sorry, Cora, I feel like you were going to say something a second ago, and the two of us started talking.
Oh no, I was just going to imply that her particular skills are not so well suited to the battlefield. Well, I wasn't necessarily being dirty.
You stroke one thigh, and that's it.
Cora's life goal is to be snarky anyway, so that's, that's plus, that's inspiration for being snarky.
Before on like how Cora made some disparaging comment about Strahd's multi-wife situation, but she's going around all of Barovia like, the pussy game ridiculous, yo.
Hey, I have only ever been with one woman at a time, I'll have you know. I'm not into this whole... Well, yeah, exactly at a time. Just happens that time is very short.
Consecutive days.
Hey, that's just the way that Cora rolls. Out of one bed into another.
So if you say she's happy and content, I don't suppose that you will be sending her back to her home anytime soon.
As soon as she wishes to, she will be returned safely and without harm to Vallaki.
How
As
much
I released Gertruda at Bartenderis's request.
I certainly hope she's not exactly as Gertruda was.
I
Will
fear
you
that
release
damage was...
Vanya?
Oh, go on, sorry?
Will you release Vanya at my request?
You have already used up that favor.
I
And
didn't
let
know
us
that
not
there was a
forget...
number.
Let us not forget, you owe me a favor.
Cash it in whenever you feel like. Let's see how that goes down. You just turned around and told me that you were an enemy of mine. That ship is well and truly sailed.
When the time comes, it may not be for you to decide, Bartandelus.
Well, there's many people that try to influence me more than you are, Count Strahd von Zerevich.
Give me an insight check.
And that was said with deliberation as well.
There's a flash of... There's a flash of...
Random emotion stable.
Perhaps two emotions flit across his face in very, very rapid succession before it goes back to what it was. A look of concern and the slightest hint of a smile for a moment. But whatever do you mean, Bartandelus? Who is trying to influence you?
And I cut a piece of lamb that is now growing cold. I just chew a piece of lamb and shrug.
You'll tell me tomorrow. It's fine.
Halvor's plate is clean.
Well, Strahd rises. This has been an interesting evening. I have enjoyed taking the chance to get to know each of you that little bit better. And of course, getting to know Esmeralda much better. I will retire for the evening. My carriage is waiting outside and will return you as soon as you are ready. In the meantime, I trust you will remember that although the castle is not locked down, I cannot guarantee your safety if you were to wander. So I suggest perhaps you do not. We will meet again very soon, I guarantee it. And he gives Halvor I will come back to you, Bartandelus. He gives Halvor quite a deep nod of the head. Bartandelus a slightly smaller nod as he walks round and gets level with Cora, or approaches Cora's chair. He says, I would take your hand, but I do not believe you would take it. So I will simply wish you a good evening.
That's probably wise.
Anastasia and Valenta stand up. Valenta takes a moment longer. She kind of looks like she doesn't want to go. And Bartandelus, what were you going to say or do?
I can't remember. When she hesitates, is there a particular person she's looking at when she hesitates?
Halvor, obviously.
Oh, Valenta. Okay, yeah. And I look over at Valenta. And, no, yeah, that's okay, yeah, I'll leave it be.
Okay. And Strahd leaves the room with Anastasia and Valenta only a step behind, next to each other.
Just before she leaves, when she hesitates, I stand and offer her my hand.
She takes it with a smile and gives it a little squeeze. And when Strahd's turned, she's going to pat your ass.
I was just going to say to her, truly, it has been my pleasure. I hope we get to see each other soon.
Why does Halvor not get called out for being a ladies' man? Why is because I happen to go after the girls? Do I get called out for it, not him?
Because he charms and swoons, you literally, you're as more man than any man I know. You are like a fucking dog on heat when a hot female comes into the room. It's
When was
crazy.
the last time I so much as mentioned a hot female?
When you went into the Arasek stockyards, or when you met that woman, Zondra, you near enough opened with, "Don't be shy, show us your cut."
And to be fair, the moment fucking Laura Stoneheart was coming around, you were already dripping.
You're like, "Oh
so,
no, she's hot."
That's your own interpretation. I literally didn't
Just not.
mention that. That is absolutely true.
I did not mention that I was dripping. As factual as it is, I didn't mention it.
I didn't even imply that Cora would think that she was in any way attractive. You guys just read into that completely.
You are deluded.
So
You're just making up your own little fantasies.
You want that
Back on track
Amazon
now.
lady.
Back on track.
Okay.
So when Halvor says, "I truly hope we get to see you again soon," Valenta, keeping her smile, just says, "Oh, I'm sure we will. I've asked my husband if I can keep you." And smiles.
You.
Halvor just no response. He's just like, just
okay.
Mouth agape, like,
And she goes with Anastasia and Strahd, leaving you in the room with Rahadin stood expectantly near the doorway.
He just brings the rain, this guy. Such a fucking bummer. I will stand up from the table. I will take the daisy from the side of the bowl, and I'm going to just skim the bowl off the table. Stew and all along the floor. I'm going to put the daisy in my pocket.
Rahadin gives a slight smile.
I'm glad you found it entertaining. Let's see how entertaining you find it next time we're out there. When you're not in the sanctity of your little abode here. Don't forget what we did to Ludmilla, 'cause you're next.
And I will fucking stride like a champion. Poof! Right past him like that, DM.
He just smiles and looks to Halvor.
Gives me the old Dolus and just kills me in one shot.
That temper of his will get you into trouble.
yes, I can believe that.
And Rahadin stands back from the doorway to allow you to exit. And closes the doors behind you.
Does this door open on my own?
Try it.
Thaumaturgy. Well, no, I'll try it with a not. No, do you know, I am going to thaumaturgy. It doesn't. What
Doesn't
is
work.
fucking. I keep thaumaturgy. I know. Try normal.
As
Oh, the bolt on
Rahadin
it.
approaches.
Oh,
no, there's no bolt. As
Yeah,
Rahadin,
no.
As Rahadin approaches, the doors swing open back into the increasingly torrential rain.
I stride past the fucking carriage.
Oh?
Fuck the fucking carriage. Fuck you, Strahd. Fuck you, Andy Harrison.
I, before leaving fully, turn to Rahadin, point immediately back behind us, and say, Rahadin, what is behind that door?
I thought you were going to, like, slip him a fiver. Like a...
Thanks for your service.
What, the doors to your due east?
Yeah.
These ones, several feet away from where you pinged for some reason.
Yeah, I was trying to drag, it didn't work. Yes, that is what I meant.
East. Those are out of bounds. Those are locked, sealed doors. An older part of the castle, no longer utilized.
He has a different accent every time.
He does.
What kind of part of the castle?
Would you like me to show you?
Oh, I don't think I could possibly, Rahadin.
Then the mystery continues, I suppose.
I just walk away. What the fuck? Rahadin's creepy.
Why didn't you ask him to show you?
Because when it's still off limits, he would kill us. He would take us in there and murder us.
But if you've been taken in there, it's allowed, surely.
I don't think so.
He offered to take you in there. He didn't say, don't go in there.
Yeah.
He didn't offer. He said, "Do you want to see?"
He said, would you like me to take you in there?
He's gone. He's gone. He's gone, guys. He's gone. So, DM, as I am walking away furiously from Castle Ravenloft, past the carriage, past the gates, I will put my hand around my holy symbol and I will cast Sending to Esmeralda. And I will say, where are you? I'm counting this 1 minute. Where are you? Are you okay? Strahd said he has you. What can we do? So many questions, DM. I hope you're writing them down. We are at Ravenloft. Can we help? And that's 22.
Okay. No response.
Motherfucking... Why not? It's fucking bullshit.
When you send messenger, can you tell whether or not someone receives it?
No, I can just tell whether it... I think... I can tell... I might have to read the description. Because there's different things.
You can't tell. I think you
I don't know whether they've... Yeah, I don't know whether they've received it. I know whether I've had a message.
If they reply, you get the reply. If you otherwise, it's just you've thrown a bottle in the ocean.
So it could very well be she's not received it. She could be fucking dead.
Yeah,
we don't
she
know
dead.
why. Yeah, we just don't know these things.
So was the whole point of this evening just to separate us from Esmeralda?
I mean, he could have done that. Oh, it was anything character, Cora?
And
Yeah.
so before we continue, are Halvor and Cora stopping at the carriage, or have they gone past as well? You all just now, quite late at night, walking outside Castle Ravenloft.
I do not intend to walk home because it's a long way, and we're planning to go to the winery. So I'm going to wait for the carriage.
Barovia.
And it's pissing it down. I mean, we've accepted his hospitality this far. I don't think that going in a carriage is going to be that much worse. I'm getting in a carriage.
Well,
Okay,
I've also left all my stuff at the winery, so
I'm gonna walk if those guys are going. If those guys are going where they're going, we're gonna be splitting the group for this part of the session, DM, in preparation for next session. Are you guys getting the carriage?
Yeah, I think the quicker we get back to see where Ez is, the better, right?
Indeed.
Okay, I am going to walk to the waterfall to Mordenkainen.
Interesting.
Okay.
If only you had his staff.
I mean, I know where his staff is. I feel confident that the most powerful wizard in the universe could probably get his way there.
We also left it where we know that Strahd just went to speak to Esmeralda.
Well, we wrapped it in air quotes a lead blanket. So we'll see. But
Well, he didn't know where the tome was when that
yeah.
was shielded.
We say that he might have done Halvor. He might have known these things. He just doesn't give a shit.
He might have tortured Ez and got the information out of her.
Could have done. So I am going to Mordenkainen's. He might not even be home yet. Who knows? But that's where I would go. And I ain't doing it in that fucking carriage of that fucking vampire twat.
You're doing it in the rain.
Doing it in the fucking rain. I will walk a couple of hours on my own in the rain with everything fucking charged. I mean, I am fucking gearing for a fight, DM. Bring those fucking wolves on. Give me a solo session where I have to fight 100 wolves. I will fucking kill them. Fucking all.
And we never saw Barty again.
So if Cora and Halvor get in the wagon, all the way down the hill, it just keeps slow pace next to Barthandelus. If he stops, it stops. If he speeds
I'm not
up,
stopping. No, I'm walking, man. I'm walking.
When it gets to the bottom, he obviously goes. Oh no! Hold on, my map. For Surf Falls,
I would go to the left.
Period where you would, yes.
Yeah.
The carriage starts to veer off to the right, and slowly builds up speed. And Halvor and Cora will reach a point where they have to either commit to staying in it and zoom off, leaving Barthandelus in the dark and the rain, or jump out.
Prior to this point, if it's following me all this way as I'm walking, they're just kind of there. I wouldn't announce what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Bear with me. Let me check. I will send another sending spell to Cora, saying I need to go and see if Mordenkainen is there. I need to tell him that we have his staff. I need to know where we stand. If you need to go to the winery, I will find my way back. So I'm gonna burn some spells to send him. So I've cast it twice.
I think he wants to be alone. We have to go back to Ez, so let's go back to the winery.
You can mentally reply to Barthandelus.
You can reply to the
Oh
spell.
yeah, okay.
And this is mental because I don't want to use as much as I can use message as a cantrip. I don't want to say anything out loud with that carriage nearby. So I'm doing it as a sending. So this is all telepathic between me and you.
Okay, in that case,
if you want to tell me how much you love me and nobody know, now's the time to do it.
I don't want to do that.
Oh. I cast Fireball on myself.
Gutted. You're not my type. I know you've got the long hair now, but still.
I cast Prestidigitation, get rid of my cock.
So go on. So what was your reply?
Go on.
I'm going to reply, we need to find Ez or what's left of her. Keep safe. Meet us at the winery when you can.
And that will just be a look through the carriage. And I will look at her and say, I didn't get a reply from her. And then I'll just give them a nod as we break away from them going one way and me going the other.
Okay. Well, that seems like an excellent place to leave what has been a very enjoyable for me session. Is it safe to say that I got under Barthandelus' skin a little bit tonight?
I mean, as far as whether Strahd's a bad guy or not, I don't necessarily know whether he's a bad guy, but I don't like Andrew Harrison. Yeah. I'm going to burn Barovia to the fucking ground.
Was part of your session prep this afternoon reading through our backstories again?
Oh, for sure it was.
Oh well, I've always had them. I've always had certain things of them that Strahd knows, and we'll talk about. Well, I'm gonna.
I mean, if he's been watching us since we were born, I imagine he knows all of it.
Well,
It's just that we don't.
now
seem to
I
know all
need
of
to
it.
read my
Yeah,
backstory.
You need to read your backstory.
Although I can say I was very impressed with your pronunciation of Halvor's hometown. So
Well, I'm gonna click end stream. So say goodbye to everybody. We had quite a few
www.patreon.com/madcartographer.